There's been a little bit of talk about what's been going on in Libya. Talk but little action. The UN Security Council has condemned the Libyan government and is calling for an immediate end to the violence. The Arab League, meanwhile, has barred the country from attending any of its meetings until the violent crackdown stops. So far, no word from the African Union, but it's holding a meeting in Ethiopia, and there should be a statement from the AU pretty soon. Iran's president, meanwhile, has waded in on what's happening in Libya, condemning Libya's use of force. He's urged leaders to give in to the demands of their peoples.
It's hard to imagine there's a person who can kill his own people or bombard them. That's really ugly. I advise strongly that everyone should allow their people to talk and reply to their demands. They lead these people. How can a ruler bombard his own people and then say if anyone speaks out, I'll kill them? This is not acceptable. People should have freedom and decision-making powers in their own future. This is their right. I think everyone in the world is very shocked at what's happening in Libya. It's really bad. I think they should heed the demands of their people. But of course, as we know, anyone who doesn't respect the will of their people, well, their fate is written.
Well, there are those who will wonder about what actually came from the Iranian president, but undoubtedly he did say it. The British Prime Minister, David Cameron, he's on a visit to Qatar, travelling around the Middle East, and he says all countries should condemn the violence in Libya, and he's urging UN solidarity.
Would I like us to go further and have a full United Nations Security Council resolution? Yes, I would. I think that would be good. Do I think that we should send a very clear warning to Colonel Gaddafi and to the Libyan armed forces that what they're doing is wrong and against the law? Yes, I think that we should. But it would be better if the world could move ahead as one, and this could be done through the UN Security Council. That is the best way. But I hope we'll be making further steps over the coming days to make that clear.
Well, that's David Cameron. A great deal more on this fast-moving story every half an hour, including we'll be taking a look at oil prices on the way up. What's going to be the impact of Libya's uprising on the fragile global economy? And a vigilante sentenced to death. How a double murder highlights tension and discrimination along the US-Mexico border.
As the rain pours over Johannesburg, we'll keep your spirits up.
Welcome back to your International Weather Forecast. Across Europe, we are going to see a lot of mixed weather in the picture. First, let's start down towards the Mediterranean. Take a look at this forecast map. We do have an area of low pressure right here over the central Med. Now, very heavy rain showers across Sicily, southern Italy, and even some snow in the higher elevations and also at night. So we could be seeing some slick conditions on the road down here. Up towards the northeast, we are looking at Moscow, seeing about -14, still way below average. They have been way below average for the last several weeks for them. Over towards the west, we are looking at some milder conditions. Paris is looking at about 12 degrees, clouds in the forecast, 14 degrees for London, some rain in their forecast. Down to the Iberian Peninsula, we're looking at the mid-teens and partly cloudy conditions there. Well, down towards North Africa, we are seeing some very heavy rain showers across the northern coast of Africa. You can see this area of low pressure that we did talk about bringing some very heavy rain showers across Algeria as well as into Libya. Those rain showers, those coastal rain showers could be heavy at times. And as that system moves towards Cairo, a temperature of about 28 degrees, but because of the wind, we're going to be seeing maybe some sandstorms there. A little bit further to the north, Tunis at 13, Tripoli at 14, and Cairo, 28.
Qatar Airways, world's 5-star airline.
On the next Riz Khan show, as world leaders condemn Libya's use of force against protesters, what's really at stake for Western nations with close ties to Muammar Gaddafi? Riz Khan, at this time on Al Jazeera.
He's taken stolen goods and he's now dumping them onto the world without any sort of consideration for consequences.
From people making the news.
If the North will be saved a lot of trouble, I think it is important that they should come together.
To those it affects.
We do accept that there was very bad mistakes made in our banking area.
Behind the headlines.
Most South Koreans are not interested in unification.
Is the inside story. At this time on Al Jazeera.
Talking about important developments in Libya, this is the most recent one that we've got, pretty significant. We're hearing from Major General Suleiman Mahmoud, who was commander of the army in Tobruk in Libya. He says he and his soldiers are backing the protesters now against Gaddafi, a sign that the army may well be turning away from the Libyan leader. In the west of the country, it's reported that protesters have taken control of a city there for the first time. A witness says 6 people were killed and 200 were hurt in Misurata, about 120 kilometers west of the capital, Tripoli. And according to Italy's foreign minister, reports of 1,000 killed in Libya are to be believed. He says he expects up to 300,000 Libyan refugees to reach Italy. Well, it is the first time that the changes sweeping the Arab world have hit a major oil producer, and Libya is Africa's 3rd biggest. There are fears that the rise in oil prices could have a damage on a global economy recovering from a recession. Now, future contracts for the benchmark Brent crude, the highest it's been in more than 2 years, approaching $109. That's for every barrel. Its highest was on Monday, the highest 2 years, at 108.7. Before falling back. Since the Tunisian president was overthrown on January the 14th, oil prices up by $10. Now, Mamdouh Salameh is an oil expert and energy consultant at the World Bank. He told AlJazeera he reckons oil prices are going to rise even further.
The global oil market reacts to any political developments. What's happening in Libya created a fear that Libyan oil production and exports could be interrupted. However, OPEC and the Gulf producers are capable of replacing that amount should Libyan production comes to a standstill. But in the long term, if it continues, OPEC might not be able to replace that in the long term because they will not have spare capacity. So that's why the price of oil has gone up to $108 a barrel. And even without the developments in Libya, I have been projecting that during this year, the oil price will be between $120 to $130, and maybe next year it could go to $140, for the simple reason that OPEC does not have much spare capacity, if any.
Loads of material on this story coming to us from all sorts of different directions, and keeping an eye on what it all is. Trying to make some sense of it is Imran Khan.
Thanks, David. Cyberspace is in overdrive when it comes to Libya, as you can imagine. It's difficult filtering out what can be seen as accurate and what is simply rumour and opinion. Now, here we endeavour to cut through the fog of information and indeed misinformation to give you an accurate picture as possible about what's happening in Libya. Now, it is extraordinary. Libyans are getting around the crackdown by speaking to friends and family outside of the country and getting